Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. General Hospital Thursday, October 3 recap. Ava suspects test tampering. Jason reconnects with Sam, Brad's backlash. General Hospital, GH, spoilers recap for Thursday, October 3, reveals that Elizabeth Baldwin, Rebecca Hurst, hugged Lucky Spencer, Jonathan Jackson, and sat with him as he ate a burger at Bobby's. Lucky gave Liz updates on all the Jen Sidwell, Carlo Rhoda drama and assured her that he wouldn't make any promises to Aidan Weber, Colin Cassidy, that he couldn't keep. Since Liz was headed into work, Lucky went to GH with her. At Pentonville, Molly Lansing Davis, Kristen Vaganos, visited Alexis Davis, Nancy Lee Grahn, and pushed her to do whatever it took to score her freedom. That included throwing Sonny Corinthos, Morris Bernard, under the bus as part of Alexis' defense. Molly mentioned that the weapon Alexis disposed of still hadn't turned up despite search efforts. Although Alexis was protecting Christina Corinthos Davis, Kate Mancy, Molly acted like there'd be no one to save Christina from herself with Alexis behind bars. Molly definitely wasn't ready to forgive and forget Christina's mistakes, but Alexis defended Christina and said a mother had to protect her child. That offended Molly since she felt like Alexis was saying she couldn't understand, so she bolted out of there. Rick Lansing, Rick Hurst, also stopped by Pentonville, where he heard about Alexis being Heather Weber's, Allie Mills' new cellmate. Heather complained about her case and pushed Rick to try some other strategy to help her. Once Heather reconvened with Alexis in their cell later, she grumbled about her test results and was pessimistic about her situation. However, Alexis suggested having the test run again to see if they painted a different picture, so Heather liked the sound of that. Meanwhile, Ava Jerome, Maura West, wanted Trina Robinson, Tabiana Ali, to run the gallery in her place during her upcoming trial. Unfortunately, Trina admitted she was returning to PCU and might not have time. Rick showed up afterward with some good news regarding Eva's case, but he couldn't say the same about Heather's dilemma. It was obvious that Rick felt for Heather based on their interactions, so he reminded Ava of their own experience as pariahs. Once Rick checked his phone and saw the lab results from some new tests, he realized the GH results indeed had the wrong cobalt levels. Ava hinted that might have been done intentionally by someone who wanted Heather to remain in prison. Next, Curtis Ashford, Donald Turner, quizzed Marshall Ashford, Robert Gossett, about his offer to join Wynton Marsalis' tour. Marshall didn't want to bail on Curtis at the Savoy, but Curtis ultimately convinced him he couldn't pass up this opportunity. At the hospital, Portia Robinson, Brooke Kerr, wasn't pleased to run into Brad Cooper, Perry Shen, who was filling in for someone and not actually listed on the day's schedule. Although Brad wanted to be a model employee, Portia ranted about him getting pity over Britt Westbourne's, Kelly Thiebaud, demise to get the job. Brad didn't understand why Portia had such a problem with him working in the lab at GH, and she recalled altering Heather's lab results. However, Portia just acted like her issues with Brad were about his past schemes. Later, Portia also had a conversation with Trina, who saw Brad at the hospital and noted that Stella Henry, Vernie Watson, referred to him as a bad egg. Once Jason Morgan, Steve Burton, made it to the hospital, he popped by Lulu Spencer's, Alexa Havens' room and shared a nice moment with a grateful Dante Falconieri, Dominic Zamprogna. Jason also crossed paths with Sam McCall, Kelly Monaco, and apologized for not telling her he was leaving beforehand. Sam had come around on the idea of Jason playing the hero for Lulu's sake, especially now that it had paid off. After Sam acknowledged that Jason was just being himself, he thanked her for understanding why he had to be part of Lulu's rescue mission. Once Jason met up with Elizabeth next, she hugged him for bringing Lucky back. As Lucky prepared to see Iden, he spoke to Elizabeth again. Both Lucky and Liz made a positive prediction about the future since they were feeling good about things. General Hospital spoilers say Liz and Lucky could be headed for a renewed romance, so stay tuned. On Thursday, October 3, General Hospital was a whirlwind of emotions, betrayals, and surprises. The episode kicked off with Ava Jerome, her usual sharp intuition on full display, suspecting foul play regarding her latest medical test results. The tension escalated as her mind raced, piecing together the oddities around her treatment and the people involved. Meanwhile, Jason Morgan found himself reconnecting with Sam McCall after months of distance, reigniting a spark they'd both tried to bury. And over in another corner of Port Charles, Brad Cooper faced a storm of backlash from unexpected sources, leaving him at a crossroads. Ava's growing suspicion. Ava sat at General Hospital, her fingers tapping rhythmically on the armrest of her chair as she waited for her doctor. The results had come back too clean, too perfect. After everything she'd been through with her health, it just didn't add up. Ava had always trusted her instincts, and they were screaming at her now. She thought back to the last few weeks. Something had been off ever since her first follow-up visit. The nurse had hesitated before handing over her test results, and Dr. Gatlin Holt's reassurances felt hollow. Ava had let it slide at first, convincing herself she was just being paranoid. But now, after her latest test came back with the same inexplicably perfect results, the alarm bells were impossible to ignore. "They're tampering with my results," she muttered under her breath, her mind racing. But who? And why? Was someone trying to protect her from bad news, or worse, actively sabotaging her health recovery? Determined to uncover the truth, Ava's resolve hardened. She knew who to ask. She just needed to catch them at the right moment. She talked to Griffin Monroe, someone she still trusted, to dig into her medical files and confirm her suspicions. If someone was tampering with her tests, they were going to regret it. Ava Jerome wasn't one to back down, not when her life was on the line. Jason and Sam's emotional reconnection. Meanwhile, Jason and Sam found themselves in a rare moment of peace. After everything with Drew, the tension with Sunny, and their personal battles, they'd kept their distance for far too long. But today, fate, or maybe something deeper, pulled them back together. Jason was leaning against his motorcycle when Sam approached him near the pier. The sight of her took his breath away, just like it always had. They exchanged the usual pleasantries, both tiptoeing around the deeper feelings bubbling beneath the surface. For months, they danced around each other, each too stubborn to make the first move, but today felt different. "I've missed this," Sam said quietly, her eyes meeting his with that familiar intensity. Jason looked at her, his stoic mask cracking just enough to reveal the man underneath. "Me too." It was a simple exchange, but the weight of it hit them both like a ton of bricks. They didn't need a grand declaration or a tearful reunion. Jason and Sam had always thrived in their unspoken bond, their connection unbreakable even after everything. They stood there for what felt like forever, the world fading around them. Eventually, Sam reached out, her fingers brushing against Jason's hand. It was enough to remind them that no matter what life threw their way, they always found their way back to each other. "I'm ready to talk," Jason finally said, his voice low but firm. "So am I," Sam whispered, a small smile tugging at her lips. They didn't have all the answers yet, and there was still so much they hadn't worked through. But for now, they were ready to start again. Together. Brad's backlash. At the hospital, Brad Cooper's day went from bad to worse. He'd spent the last few months trying to rebuild his life after the Wiley debacle. keeping his head down and hoping people would forget his role in the baby swap. But poor Charles never forgets, and today it was all coming back to haunt him. The backlash began when Lucas ran into Brad at the hospital. The tension between them was palpable, still raw from the devastation Brad had caused. Lucas had been civil, keeping things professional when they crossed paths at work. But today, the dam finally broke. "You don't get to just move on like nothing happened," Lucas snapped, his voice cold. "You ruined our lives, Brad." Brad, visibly shaken, tried to explain himself again. "I know I messed up, Lucas, but I've changed. I'm trying to make things right." But Lucas wasn't having it. "You think saying sorry is enough. You think you can just walk around this hospital like people are going to forget what you did." Before Brad could respond, another voice chimed in. This time, it was Felix. "He's right, Brad. People are still talking, and it's not just about Wiley. You've left a lot of damage in your wake, and not everyone's willing to forgive and forget." Brad's face paled. He thought he'd at least have Felix on his side, but now even that was crumbling. His past was catching up with him, and he was running out of allies. Later that day, things got worse when Brad overheard a group of nurses gossiping about him. They weren't subtle, and their words cut deep. "He's lucky they even let him keep his job," one nurse whispered. "I still don't know how he sleeps at night," another added. Brad felt the weight of their judgment pressing down on him, the walls closing in. He'd worked so hard to move on, but maybe it was too late. Maybe he'd never escape the shadow of his past mistakes. The episode's cliffhanger. As the episode came to a close, Ava made a secret call to Griffin, her voice hushed and urgent. "I need you to look into something for me." Discreetly. Jason and Sam walked off together, a new chapter on the horizon, though they both knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. And as Brad sat alone in the hospital's break room, staring down at his hands, he realized that no matter how hard he tried, redemption might always be out of reach. Port Charles, as always, was a city full of secrets, lies, and second chances, though not everyone would be lucky enough to get one.